Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Early this morning, NASA's Terra platform, which houses a satellite called MODIS, was capturing some pretty interesting imagery here across parts of China. There was a deep cyclone pulling here toward the east coast, and what I'd like you to notice on this was all of the dust and sand that was being pulled out of the highlands in the desert of China into the backside of this low. It was an expansive and large dust storm. And why I found this so fascinating was at the same time that this was happening in China, we had the same event going on here in the United States, very similar at least. The National Weather Service out of Boulder posted this image early this morning, and you can almost see right here as the snow piled up in Colorado, a thin layer of dust that was kind of integrated in there into the snow. And as you look at that, it was because as this deep stacked low just sat there and spun over the central plains of the United States, it drew in some very, very dry air here out of parts of the desert southwest. You can even see the dust storm here yesterday. This is sun up to sundown on Sunday from our GOES 16 satellite showing you that dust storm. Well, this low was very slow moving, and it put down a lot of snow and also quite a bit of severe weather. And I'd like to zoom in and show you what some of those storms look like on Saturday. So a satellite animation here on the 13th shows that dry line we spoke about last week. Look at the storms blowing up along the dry line here through the panhandles all the way down here pretty far south into parts of western Texas. On the back side, though, just take a look at how much dust came out of parts of Mexico, western Texas, and New Mexico right in through here. Now, as these storms went through, they did produce quite a bit of severe weather, and we saw 17 reports of tornadoes, 84 total reports of severe weather. And some of these supercell thunderstorms were interesting to watch because they went through, we got to actually witness them going through their life cycle, which is where the first circulation, the first hook echo, if you will, begins to occlude, and a second one forms on the backside, which meant that sometimes, if you were watching the storm chasers out here, you may have seen some pictures of two separate tornadoes from the same supercell. But again, a lot of severe weather down here in parts of Texas out of this system. Now let's talk about that snow. Now this is only valid through 7 p.m. last night on the 14th. Total accumulated snowfall through the last 72 hours. And I want to show you why I favored the national blended model for this. As I was watching the model trends, the NBM, which blends together the European, the GFS, and others, seemed to have found the right, I just think it found the right placement. And over there on the left, that was the forecast I gave you last Thursday, okay? And over here on the right is what we've had so far. So there's still more to be had as this cyclone moves on out. But overall, you see how well the NBM did with this system. Now, you might be looking out there in the west and go, what about California and parts of Nevada? Well, there's still more coming here. And this map is valid through Thursday this week. So we're going to talk about that snow that's coming out there in just a little bit. But one of the things I think it's important to discuss is the model's forecast for precipitation with this low. They did not do a good job with allowing it to kind of eject into the plains and move to the east quickly. What you're looking at here, I showed you last Monday, and it was the forecast for all of last week through Sunday night. And you can see that the WPC product, this comes out of the National Weather Service, had a broad area of heavy precipitation. Individual model runs like that from the GFS, a little bit different scenario. While we picked up on the heavy precip through parts of the Mid-South, look at this area here predicted by the GFS, very wet conditions from Illinois through northern Indiana, southern Michigan. And this is an area that wants this precipitation, wants it desperately. The European wasn't quite as aggressive. And what I'd like to show you is just some more evidence as to why I continue to favor the European model. Because this was its forecast from last Monday through Sunday evening. And this is what actually fell during that time period. This area through here, the European did the best job on. The GFS, the PC product over-predicted there. The European did a good job at picking up on the total amount of precip that came into parts of the Mid-South. As you see right in through here, there are some places that got over 6 inches of rainfall. And it certainly got the QPF, or the liquid equivalent in the models, I think, pretty darn good here as this cyclone produced all that snow back in parts of the high plains, getting over to Wyoming and Colorado. Okay, benefits to all of this. That area where all this precip just came through, we know that it's in drought. So to bring that much moisture into the snow, which we're going to let slowly melt and percolate into the soil, is just, it's fantastic. Love to see that. What I didn't like to see was, look at the areas that were missed. parts of the northern plains, this area has really struggled to return moisture here to the Dakotas, parts of Montana, getting up into southern Saskatchewan and Manitoba. We are still exceptionally dry throughout the four corner states of the Great Basin, and where those dust storms have emerged down here in parts of New Mexico, and western Texas, we can see how extensive the drought is in that area as well. Looking at it another way, top 4 inches soil moisture percentile. You can pick up on the dry areas pretty easily. We will be returning rains to parts of the southeast here, and also in this part of the Great Lakes Basin. So these dry areas, as you see me kind of highlighting here, will finally have some moisture returning to them very soon. I'll show you how much in just a few moments. Same thing for parts of the East Coast. Back, though, in the northern plains, we have some snow coming into this area, but it is not the kind of snow that could be kind of corrective on the drought. And we're going to just go cool for a brief time period and warm right back up. You'll see that in a few moments. All right, jet stream pattern. It is quite amplified. Look at the polar branch of the jet stream here, giving us that cutoff low that's slowly moving to the east, where the subtropical branch to the south of it is still screaming in this direction. We have a system cutting into California today. That's going to be the system that ultimately kicks out the low that's still kind of stacked up here over the central plains of the United States. But coming behind it, we do anticipate more activity out of the North Pacific, so pay attention here in a few moments as I show you the week 2 pattern. To begin, though, I'd like to give you the all hazards weather map. Several areas we're dealing with some dense fog this morning. You can see here in parts of, right here in parts of Kansas, on this side here of Texas, Florida, and also here as you get up toward the East Coast. Wind chill advisory still in the Northeast. Your eyes probably drawn here to the winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories that surround the low that's finally getting out here into the plains. And this was an interesting trend to watch over the weekend. I'll show you in a few moments. We could be getting several inches of snow in through parts of this area. Flood warnings still out for this part of Missouri, where over the last several days we have seen upwards of 6+ inches of rainfall. And then system number 2 comes into California. It's packing a lot of wind, packing snow into the mountains. And we love to see that at this point in the month of March. So to see it all play out, let's go watch the high-resolution NAM model, playing you through Monday midday here, getting into early Tuesday morning right now, and then here out to Wednesday morning. And you see that that next low begins to emerge down here in parts of Oklahoma and Texas. A couple of details to point out. As I play this through the day today, this is now getting, again, to Monday morning. There are going to be some concern right here in parts of central Illinois of some wintry mix. We'll see storms build to the south of this here, and the potential for heavy snow in parts of Iowa, stretching into Minnesota and back into parts of the Dakotas. And you see that throughout mid-morning hours, this is how that system plays out into early afternoon. So the chance for the wintry mix moves into parts of Indiana. Again, storms to the south here, moving to southern Wisconsin and into Minnesota as this system kind of pulls itself on off to the east. Meanwhile, our next system is coming into California this evening. You can see it there. If I kind of just walk you back, we're going to see some strong winds and some big snow into parts of California. Again, we're working throughout the afternoon on Monday, into the overnight hours on Monday into Tuesday morning. And why don't we just stop it here by the time we get to about 6 a.m. on Tuesday. We are expecting some snow. We'll take a look at the amounts in just a few moments, coming out of southern Saskatchewan and Manitoba into parts of North Dakota, Montana, and Wyoming. So Wyoming, we got more that's on its way. And possibly coming into parts of Nebraska as well as this next system begins to emerge. Scattered storms move over to the east as the first low falls apart. And the second low right here take shape. Here we are, 10 p.m. Tuesday, getting into early Wednesday morning. And this is going to set us up with the severe weather threat on Wednesday in parts of the lower Mississippi River Valley, and snow, more snow, right into this area. Okay, let's take a look at the severe weather side of this first. Over the next 3 days, today, we're watching first these areas for the potential for having some thunderstorm activity. Okay. Tomorrow, we're going to watch, again, parts of the southern plains here, Kansas, Oklahoma. Then as you get into the day on Thursday, not Thursday, but Wednesday, this will be the 17th. This is where we're going to keep a close eye in parts of the Mid-South, getting into the lower Mississippi River Valley, and then into Dixie Alley. And I'll just tell you, this continues to translate to the east as we work our way toward the end of the week. Winds, okay, first system's falling apart today, but still stronger winds in parts of the Midwest is what we'll experience today, gusts 30 to 40 miles an hour. But then we get into tomorrow, the next low comes out here. You can see possibly fire threat, more dust storms down in parts of Mexico and New Mexico, getting into Texas. And then as that low emerges on Wednesday, right here over Oklahoma, the transport of moisture fueling those storms, strong north winds on the back side of this, and that's where we're going to get the potential for some snow in parts of the panhandles here as this system ejects. Now to see that, we got to switch over to the European model. Now we've got a good idea about what's going to happen from now on Monday all the way through Wednesday morning. So let's let this get out to Wednesday and start from there. So Wednesday morning, here is our next low that's emerging, snow on the backside, and you can see the light snow farther up here into the plains. As this low pulls out here on Wednesday afternoon, getting into the evening hours, severe weather threat right inside this area here, okay? More precip moving through parts of Missouri, out of Kansas, into Iowa, Illinois, and it seems as though the models have this right for, as the time we get into Thursday morning, finally pulling some rain into a region that needs quite a bit of it here. In this section, which I showed you a few moments ago, was quite dry. So we're going to bring in some precip there. Unfortunately, on the south side of this is going to be a pretty potent upper level front, almost lined up with the surface front. We're going to watch for this area on Thursday for severe weather. Could get a mix on the back side of this in Iowa as this low finally moves off to the northeast, hitting the mid-Atlantic here with potential for some storms. Okay, this is Thursday night. And we're going to watch. Well, look at this at the very end of this run. This is early in the morning on Friday. Sorry, right there. And you can see maybe some cold enough air in place to get some snow in this area. Meanwhile, after this system leaves on Friday, high pressure builds in to the midsection of the country, really stretching from the northeast all the way down to Texas. But another low cutting into the northwest, which had been dry, this one's going to start to return some moisture to this area for the beginning of the weekend. Now going into the weekend, going out to Saturday, now through the day on Sunday, we don't have a lot of information beyond this point on exactly how this next wave is going to come through here. But do notice, and remember, March is a snowy month for Colorado. We could get some more snow here in Colorado. And I'll be watching the trend on this system all week because we noticed it over the weekend. It still showed up here again. The model runs early in the morning on Monday. Could be a bit of a coastal low trying to form here off of the Carolina coast. We'll watch that for some return of moisture as well. That gets you through the next week. Going out, let's now take a look at total accumulated precip. Now, the European model, what it's got here, I'm bought into this. When I watched the model trend over the weekend, when I saw this morning's runs, I think that this is a pretty solid look at the next 7 days of total accumulated precipitation. Okay, let's go from here to take a look at the GFS. If I kind of toggle back and forth, European, GFS, you do see quite a bit of similarity here. Some of the differences are in the upper Midwest. Some of the differences are in the northern plains. But overall, we got a pretty solid picture here from our models on what to expect. And I'll stop on the European and also say it is great to be seeing this moisture, again, from another system coming into parts of California. We need to continue to pick up that moisture before we transition into April, which is really the beginning of the dry season in California. Okay, snowfall. Let's start from the west and work our way east. Klamath Mountains, Sierra Nevada, picking up another 18 plus inches of snow. So this is coming just in the next 5 days. Here's the snow we're expecting from the system, the first system, the cutoff low, the stacked low. You see that parts of South Dakota getting into southern Minnesota, Iowa, northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, that area. Potentially here better than 4 inches with pockets of maybe 6 to 10 in a few areas. See it right in through there? And then remember, after the low cuts into California, comes out in the panhandles midweek, this will be another region we're going to watch for some more snow right in through here. Okay. From there, let's take a look at this pattern by the time we get to day 10. This is the 25th of March. The jet stream is screaming through the Gulf of Alaska. It breaks up across the western U.S., but this trough down here, I've got quite a bit of concern about because the jet stream level winds into that trough look just like this. Jet stream comes in and splits. There's a jet streak here and a jet streak there. And what I start to see here is that the model really kind of, well, this would be a configuration that, should it materialize, would light up this area potentially with some severe weather out there around March 25th. We can see it when we look out into week 2 at the precipitation anomaly maps. Okay, GFS is on the left, European on the right. You can see where it's keeping things wetter here. What is interesting is that the upper Midwest and even parts of the plains showing up wet in both models. And there are some areas in there that desperately need this moisture before we get into our primary planting time period. Now, some concerns. The West Coast tends to favor dry in both scenarios here. And this is just, we need the finish at the end of March to bring in what's left for the moisture that we need for the West Coast of the United States. And then taking out to the beginning of April, not strong signals at this point. I know you see an area here that favors drier conditions. Be honest, I got to see the jet stream really break down before I buy into that. But I do believe we're going to continue to see quite a bit of severe weather here in our southern plains moving into the first week of April. Now, before I get deep into those temperatures in this pattern, I want to let you know something. Looking out here into the beginning of April, there are yet to be really strong signals coming out of both the tropics and the jet stream pattern to really tell us what to expect. But it has been warm. Since the Arctic outbreak, we have seen warmer conditions east of the Rocky Mountains here across most of North America, cooler conditions a little bit to the west here. And to kind of put this to a point, I would like to show you an updated map of our total accumulated growing degree day units. The start date on this is the 25th, so this is after the Arctic outbreak. So some folks that had to replant in Texas, we've already had enough GDUs to get another corn crop to emerge here if there was some damage. And if we take a look at how anomalous these numbers are compared to normal, you get this map. So you can see that parts of the southeast, west Texas, getting down here into the desert and then into the Central Valley of California, we're off by about 20 to 40 GDUs. But where we've got a big surplus isn't quite yet where it fully matters, which is right here in this area. Why I say that is because we know that for some of the crops where we need to get the early heat, we just don't have them in the ground yet. All right, what I'm going to watch carefully, very closely over the next 3 to 6 weeks, is going to be this map. You see, this is 4-inch soil temperatures in Fahrenheit. And I want you to pay attention to the contours. This thick black contour here, which falls right in this part of our color bar, is the 50-degree 4-inch soil temperature line. And this one up here is the 32. Now, as I play this forward, we're just going to get ourselves through midweek this week. And what you notice is, parts here of the upper Midwest, we go back below freezing. There's snowpack on the ground here. But you can see pretty far to the south where that 50-degree line is advancing farther to the north. Now, as we get out here Thursday and then into Friday, now let's work our way into the weekend. What you're going to notice is look at the surge of warmth that's coming back here. It's getting into the soil temperatures for this weekend. And we're going to get into early next week and start to see that 50-degree line migrating farther and farther to the north. And as I start to see that, we have to just step back and say, what is this temperature pattern doing to allow that to occur? So let's go take a look at the near-term temperatures first. This is max temperatures on Monday. You can see where the warm sector of this big, occluded, deep low is here in the U.S. It's Texas, over to the lower Mississippi River Valley. We're cold in the east, cold in the Midwest, and where we put down that snowpack, of course, it's cold. But get farther to the north, the anomalies here show up warmer than average. The west, also cold with that deep trough cutting in. Let's watch the change here. As we go from Monday into Tuesday, and then working our way into Wednesday here, and now into Thursday. Watch the transition into this weekend. Here's Thursday into Friday. Now Saturday, cool starting to exit east, and mild conditions build back in, kind of centered on the Great Lakes states, while we have still a little bit of cooler weather lingering in the southeast and in the west, again as the jet stream is dipping to the west. Okay, day 5 through 10. We see this large corridor opening up of mild conditions here, stretching from the Canadian prairie all the way to eastern Canada, but kind of incorporating here the northern tier of the U.S. We're favoring cooler weather, cotton and peanut belt down here, and then getting over into the west, just still hanging onto a slight cool bias. Day 10 through 15, interesting model signature showing up in the European, keeping this area cold. I'm wondering if it has a lot to do with the snow contamination in the mountains here. The GFS doesn't show that same pattern, but it looks as though we're going to try to go to the end of March favoring more mild conditions than colder conditions as the colder airs over Greenland and Alaska, okay, allowing the jet stream to relax a bit. The tropics are advertising this as well. Now, we have several North Pacific and North Atlantic jet stream factors that are helping too. But one thing I found interesting was over the weekend, the European ensemble, instead of letting the MJO race out here high amplitude into phase 2 and 3, that'd be over the Indian Ocean, which would signal cold weather for North America, it just collapsed back into null space. So given the other events going on with the Arctic Oscillation, the North Atlantic Oscillation, the EPO, and the PNA, those are all just different ways of describing the jet stream pattern, we then appear to see that the models want to favor a mild start to April. That's April 1st through April 8th. So we'll watch it, and we'll just keep an eye on this, and we'll see what this temperature pattern does through April, but it looks as though a milder start to the beginning of it. Okay, we'll wrap it up here. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks.